Hey there everyone, and welcome to this, what month are we? The September edition of Celebrity Signings. Apologies this video is so late, it's just been a bit of a manic month and so I haven't had a chance to get the video done yet, so hopefully haven't kept you waiting too long. I've got a good few results back for September, so let's crack straight on and show you what I got. So the first return I got in September were these autographs back from Mark Lewis Jones, who for me is probably best known as Rob Morgan in the series Stella. He was also in the recent series Keeping Faith, which was fantastic if you haven't seen it. But he was also Captain Moden Kennedy in the most recent Star Wars episode, which is The Last Jedi. So I sent him two pictures. I sent him this one from Keeping Faith, which he's in with Eve Miles, and he signed there. I also sent him this one as Captain Moden Kennedy from The Last Jedi. He signed that as well. And then he also returned his own headshot, which I haven't put a picture of, but he signed the back and put 2 Carl best wishes from Mark Lewis Jones. So really pleased with these 3 results, especially as a new addition to my Star Wars collection. And really quick turnaround as well. It's about 3 weeks, so took no time at all, which is fantastic. The other result I got back, which I'm absolutely over the moon about, were these 2 autographs back from Bela Lugosi Jr, who he himself is not that well known, but his father is. For those who remember the original Dracula, his father was Bela Lugosi, who played Dracula in the original 1930s version of the film. So I sent him a couple of pictures. I got in contact with actually his daughter, Lynn Lugosi, online, and she was quite happy for me to send some stuff through for him to sign. So I sent him this Dracula picture, which he signed Bela Lugosi Jr, and I actually asked if she could sign it as well. So underneath his autograph, she's also signed that, Lynn Lugosi Sparks, which is her name. And then I also sent him this picture of him and his father, Bela Lugosi, and he signed this one as well, Bela Lugosi Jr. So, I'm never going to get a signed picture from Bela Lugosi himself. He's long since deceased, unfortunately, and his autographs are commanding huge amounts of money. But the next best thing is to get something signed by his son. So I've managed to get this, and this signed by Bela Lugosi Jr, which is awesome. Next up, I got this return, about 2 weeks it took, from Derek Jacobi. It's my first Derek Jacobi in my collection. He's well known for loads and loads of stuff, but for me, probably Doctor Who, things like Gladiator as well. I sent him this picture, which I absolutely love. It's him as his as the Master from sort of a Big Finish spin-off series, but he was in Doctor Who obviously as Professor Yana / the Master, who eventually regenerates into John Sims, the Master. So I sent him this. It's got that lovely white bit at the bottom, which thankfully he signed in as well, which looks really cool. And yeah, it took about 2 weeks to come through, so really pleased to add this to my Doctor Who collection. That's Derek Jacobi. Next up are a couple of in-person ones, actually. I went to London for an event, and while I was there, I did a little bit of outside the venue hovering. I managed to get 3 things signed, which I'm really pleased about. The first one is a bit dark, you can't really see it, but it's signed by Paul Nichols, who was in EastEnders. I'm not a huge EastEnders fan, but I know he was in EastEnders. I'm not sure what his character was called, Joe maybe, or something like that. Joe Wicks, I'm saying that, maybe not. And he was in Law and Order with Bradley Walsh, who of course is the new Doctor Who companion, Graham. So I managed to meet Paul and got this signed. Hopefully you can see it. He's kind of signed over the dark bit. It looks better in person than it does on the photo. It doesn't really do it justice. I also managed at the same play to get this signed by Heidi Reed. Heidi's mostly done stuff overseas. I think she's Scandinavian or Swedish, I'm not sure. She's done a lot of overseas TV work and film work, but most recently she's been in Poldark. I think her character was called Elizabeth Poldark. She's not in it anymore, spoiler alert, sorry if you haven't seen it already, but I managed to meet her as well, which is really cool, and I got this signed to Carl from Heidi Reed, which is really awesome. So I met Paul Nichols and Heidi Reed, but the real reason I went to this show, and they were all in the same show, all 3 of these autographs I got, but the real reason I went was to actually try and get something signed by Ewan Rion, who is probably best known for Game of Thrones, Misfits, Inhumans, those kind of things. In Marvel's Inhumans, he played Maximus. Terrible series, unfortunately, he didn't do very well. He was Simon in the Brilliant Misfits, and he was Ramsay Bolton, the awful Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones, which this picture's from. I absolutely love it. Brought this picture in, and yeah, managed to get him to sign it as well, which is fantastic. Also managed to grab a snap with him too, which you can see hopefully on screen here. So that's me and Yuan. We were actually born, interesting little fact, in the same county. So there we go. Born in the same hospital in the same county. So what are the chances of that? But yeah, really, really cool, and managed to get it signed. He was recently at the London Film and Comic Con, I think, and charging a decent amount for autographs and pictures. So I was really pleased to catch him and get both of these signed. This signed and this picture as well. And funnily enough, there were only about 3 people there waiting, which was brilliant. So everybody who came through was happy to do photos and autographs, that kind of stuff, which was great. Next up, this is the actual reason I went to London in the first place, was to meet Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero, who are probably best known for the film The Room, which is known as, you know, the best worst film of all time. And I mean, it's just goddamn awful. If you haven't seen it, you've got to watch it. It's so bad, it is hilariously funny. Annoyingly enough, they didn't have any posters or anything for sale from The Room, but they did have this poster for sale, which is for their follow-up film called Best Friends. And I managed to get it signed by both Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero. Annoyingly, Tommy has signed above Greg's head and Greg signed above Tommy's head, but yeah, there we go, never mind. And the real reason I went was to get a picture with both of them as well. So that's me in the middle. On the left-hand side of me is Greg Sestero, and on the right is Tommy Wiseau. Absolutely brilliant, over the moon to meet both of them, because the film is just amazing, and you've got to see it just to see how mental it is. And if you ever get a chance to go to a screening of the film live, which I did on this particular evening, it is bonkers. It's so much fun, you've got to go. So that's a brilliant addition to my collection, Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero. Next up is a really long return. It's Jessica Raine, and this return took 2 years, 5 months, so about nearly 2.5 years it took to get these back from her. When I wrote to her, she actually hadn't done that much, really, which is why most of the pictures I've got here are just sort of headshots and stuff. I think she may have done Doctor Who at this point, but possibly not. But suddenly she's just exploded, and she's done things like Fortitude recently, Patrick Melrose with Benedict Cumberbatch. So she's doing loads of really cool stuff. But I sent her 3 pictures. This one from the BAFTAs, which she signed Jessica Raine. This headshot, which she's also signed, and this one as well. And of course, they're all really nice light pictures, which is great because her autograph really stands out on them, especially this last one here, which I really like because it looks like she's actually looking down at it, which is quite cool. So yeah, massive wait for these, 2.5 years, but it was well worth the wait. Really pleased to add Jessica Raine to my collection. Next up is Matthew Horn, from probably best known from Gavin and Stacey, or Bad Education, or Horn and Corden. He was probably best known as Gavin in the series with Gavin and Stacey. I actually met him in person at a local theatre fairly recently. I've got this picture which was already signed by Joanna Page, who plays Stacey in Gavin and Stacey, so I brought it with me to meet Matthew, and he signed it for me there, which you can see, which is brilliant. And I also grabbed a snap with him as well, which is really cool. So he was due to do his first ever Comic-Con recently, I think this month actually, and pulled out of it at the last minute because he was ill, so all the people who were waiting to see him didn't get a chance to see him, so I was really pleased I did. I went to the theatre to meet him, and I was literally the only person there, so he quite happily stopped, did a photo, and signed my Gavin and Stacey picture, which is really cool. Next up are some purchases. I purchased some Topps Archive Signature Series boxes recently, just to see what they were like. Everyone on some of the Facebook pages, like the Star Wars Autograph Universe, have been talking about them. So I bought a couple of boxes, and the first one, you don't know what you're getting. You get one autographed card inside them. And the one that first one I got was Warwick Davis. I don't have Warwick in my collection yet, and this is a signed portrait of Wicket. So Wicket the Ewok there. So Warwick Davis played that, so I managed to get this one signed by him, which was pretty cool. Not quite so cool, but never mind, I'm not going to complain about it. It's a new addition to my Star Wars collection. It's from Jimmy V, who plays R2-D2 in the newer versions, so The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, etc. Obviously, Kenny Baker sadly passed away now and was getting too old to play R2-D2 when he was still alive. So I pulled this one from the box, and this is Jimmy V, who plays R2-D2 in the new Star Wars series. Next up is another purchase, actually, and this is an absolute bargain. It's the final autograph I needed for my collection. It's the only Doctor that I currently don't, the only living Doctor that I currently don't have something signed by, or I didn't have something signed by, and is this from Matt Smith, which I'm absolutely over the moon about. It's a bit of a weird story. So it's from one of the RACC trusted sellers, which is probably the most trusted seller group you can get online. They have to register, they have to prove that they're a trusted seller. This chap met Matt Smith, funnily enough, at the World Cup in Russia, and got him to sign this. It's actually signed on a plain glossy photo card, and then what the seller's done is actually printed the Matt Smith photo over the top, but you wouldn't know looking at it, you couldn't tell. It's a really nice clean signature, and I love the picture that they've used as well, which is awesome. And this cost me, including postage, less than $20, which is just brilliant. So I'm absolutely over the moon about this. Very, very happy. I'm glad to add Matt Smith finally to my Doctor Who collection. That is the last of the living Doctors that I didn't have an autograph from. So apart from Jodie Whittaker, I should say, who I've not met yet, but hopefully will at some point soon. Next up is another through the mail return. This is Joseph Alton, who's probably best known as playing Pip in Game of Thrones, and it was also in Misfits as well. This took 11 months to come back from him. In the meantime, funnily enough, I actually met him at Cardiff Comic Con about less than a year ago, just after I'd posted these off, strangely enough. But he signed and returned them both. This one to Carl Joseph Alton, and he's written Pip. And then this one has his character Gary from the first episode of Misfits. I love the series Misfits. It's absolutely brilliant. And I love Game of Thrones as well. So those are brilliant additions to both of those collections. And last but not least is a second return here from Mr. Julian Glover. I have to say I'm massively annoyed with this because my stupid fucking postie bent it in half. As you can see here, it is bent right down the middle. There's no rescuing it, it's ruined, but I'm not going to get rid of it, obviously. He signed it to Carl Julian Glover and returned it, and it's his character General Veers from Star Wars. But unfortunately my postie recently, we've got a new postman, and for some reason he's decided to bend every fucking letter that comes through our letterbox in half to post it through our letterbox, including the ones that say please do not bend. So I've had to log a complaint with Royal Mail. Hopefully that's put an end to that, but we'll soon see, won't we? And that is it for my collection for September. Hopefully you like all the returns that I've had. I thoroughly enjoyed getting them back. A really good month of returns, so I was very, very happy with them. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. And if you want to comment, that would be amazing as well. That'd be so cool. The more comments I get, I better. I love to hear from people watching my videos to know whether what I'm doing is interesting or not, so feel free to comment. That's it for this month. Hope you enjoyed it. Bit slow for the start of October so far, so next month's video might be a bit shorter. Who knows? We'll wait and see. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all again really soon. Thanks very much. Bye.